Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Coco and Alts. This is episode 74 and we are real people bringing you real reviews of all the latest movies and TV shows that are streaming on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. We are your one-stop pop culture shop when you are stuck in the house. So I'm not Daltz.
And I'm not Coco. I'm in this show, just so you know.
Do you want to start over? I could not talk so much.
No, I just really enjoy the sound of your voice, so I forgot to say something at any point there earlier in the introduction.
Because usually you cut into what I'm saying to like make fun of me or when I say stuff. So.
Right. Or lately I've been doing the intro.
That's true. Yeah, and I've been doing the summary. But today Daltz is doing the summary of what we just watched. It is hot off the presses, just dropped on Netflix a few days ago. Daltz, take it away.
So we watched Fatal Affair.
Dun, dun, dun.
On Netflix, and boy, did we love it. It was awesome. So the story is, before we get into what we thought of it, I should probably do... See, I'm new at this. I don't know the summary. I've been doing the intro for so long. Nia Long plays a lawyer in California that has... it seems like it's San Francisco, but some of the street addresses are LA, so we're not really sure where it is in California, but it's in there somewhere. She's a lawyer who runs into an old boyfriend, and the old boyfriend is like not really taking no for an answer. And so there is a moment of passion in a bar bathroom that is just,
where most moments of passion happen.
Right. In a completely vacant bar bathroom, in a jammed nightclub, by the way.
In a really nice bar bathroom, too.
Right. It was really nice, actually. And the moment of passion, when I say moment of passion, there was kissing and there was a little bit of cleavage kissing, but there was nothing beyond that.
There was no insertion.
And so...
That's what you were getting at.
I was hinting at it. I think people could have read between the lines. So, not excusing that. And by the way, the old boyfriend is played by Omar Epps. And so they have an inappropriate meeting in the bathroom. And she puts an end to it and drives away. And he's like, that's not going to happen. And then he ends up chasing her for the rest of the movie. And... that's about it. I think. Did I miss anything? She's married to an architect and he's a cool guy, and they got this fantastic house in Ocean Crest, wherever the hell that is in California, because we Googled it and we couldn't find out where that was.
It's on a beach.
It's on a beautiful beach. It's probably just like 4 miles from Burbank or something like that, but it was a really nice. And so she's got the perfect life, and she's setting up a new practice out of the city, and she's having a bit of a life-changing moment because her daughter has gone to college and this sort of thing. So
and the marriage had kind of hit a rough patch, and
they've been together 20 years,
but they worked through it mostly.
Right. So regular people stuff, and all of a sudden, Omar Epps shows up, and things go sideways. And this was, as we watched this on this very evening, not long after its debut, was trending as the number 2 show on Netflix. So, Coco, before I go on and tell people, I think people can probably guess what I think of it. But what did you think of it, Coco?
Well, before I say anything else, I just want to say that I was kind of obsessed with figuring out where Ocean Crest is, because I love Northern California, and Ocean Crest looked very nice. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, is it more by like Half Moon Bay, or is it more up by like San Rafael and Mill Valley? And that was when we busted out the Google Maps, and we could not find it. But then we saw the intersection, the cross streets that her office is located on, and yeah, those are streets in Burbank.
Right.
So allegedly this takes place in Northern California, but apparently it was entirely shot in LA. So,
because San Francisco is pretty far away from LA.
Right.
In order to get the crew and everything up there, and they got different. Oh no, it's the same state, so they don't have the different rules at all. I don't know why they didn't do that. It's probably cheaper to film up in that way as well. Maybe they have to stay in wine country or something like that.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Although that's probably how the script came, and they were like, we're just not going to bother changing the names of, from San Francisco to Los Angeles, from Ocean Crest to Malibu. Like, we're not going to bother changing the names.
I have a feeling that there was a lot of those discussions in this production. It was like, no, just let's just go ahead. Let's just do it. Okay. Anyway, so what did you think?
So, geographical confusion aside,
Right.
I mentioned a couple times to Daltz that I feel like this was basically a Lifetime movie.
Yep.
Like it was trying to be a classy Lifetime movie, but it was still, it would not have been out of place on Lifetime. I will say it was nice to have the 90s flashback. Nia Long and Omar Epps were, you know, they had some fame in the 90s, and I'm a 90s girl, so it was very nice to see the 90s flashback on the little screen. I was really hoping when they went to the nightclub where they had their, you know, interlude, that it was going to be all 90s music and some Will Smith and maybe the Spice Girls, and I was kind of disappointed by that.
It was just anonymous music. It was just like, come on, you know, it was nothing to it at all.
Yeah, but it was, so for me, I did also mention to Daltz that on one of our last episodes, where this is how enthralled he is with this movie, he is now picking like lint off our tablecloth.
Yeah,
that he can barely like contain his excitement over this movie. He's picking lint.
I've already got all my lines rehearsed. I'm just waiting for you to stop
you're waiting
talking.
For me to shut up.
Yeah, and then I can insert my comment.
So I will say that I did mention to Daltz, well, a couple episodes ago we were talking about The Old Guard, and you mentioned you were really, really getting tired of movies with high body counts like The Old Guard and Extraction, and this isn't a light, fluffy comedy like Eurovision Song Contest, but it kind of fits the bill because
it's an unintentional comedy.
Yeah, totally. So.
Like, just for an example, the scene where they're in the nightclub, it looks like they had intended to CGI more people in the background, because the people that were dancing in the nightclub, there's only like a few people dancing right behind them, and then there was like blackness beyond that. So it looked like the nightclub was supposed to be jammed with people, and it looked like there was maybe 40 people in this nightclub. So there's all sorts of like accidental humor in this movie, and the acting is pretty awful. Like the acting, the acting is not great. I'm not buying Omar. Like he tried hard, but some of his reactions were, and part of this was reinforced to me when the daughter comes home from college, and she walks in the room, walks around the house and everything like that, and then the parents come to her and they see that she's there, and they go, "Hey, how's it going?" And they're not like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in weeks and weeks." And they're like, and then the mother and Nia was like, "Oh, it's very nice to see you again," and gives her a hug after the dad. Like, if it had been my daughter coming home from college after how many weeks away, I would have been like giving her big, huge hugs and noogies and
noogies
and like neck, you know, what do they call those things? The neck farts you give them, you know, like
the Zerberts.
Yeah, like I would have been doing all that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm unique in that way. I think that if you're a parent and you haven't seen a child for a long time, you're going to be like, "Oh, I haven't seen," but it was like, "Oh, hello, it's good to see you again. How is college? Do you like your room?" Like, it was not really all that authentic to me. It felt really forced. And then the same part went at the end when there's the climax, the denouement, and then she's driving away in her car, and just before she gets in her car to go back to college, like 2 months later, which I don't know what kind of break that is, but she's going back to college, and it's like, "Okay, well, have fun, and yes, be good, and learn things," and then she gets in her car and drives away, and it's not like, you know, "By the way, what about the trauma of being tied up and watching your dad get beaten up and all?" Like, "Okay, good luck. Have a good year at school, dear." "Okay, I will." Like, it was just awful. It was just so stilted and cardboard and blah.
See,
you didn't have that kind of reaction, I can tell.
I didn't. It was, you know, it was 90 minutes. It was fine. It was like, I'm not upset we watched it or anything. It was entertaining for what it was.
Well, I will say that it was my idea to watch it because it was trending on Netflix, and I said, "Okay, this should be good for a laugh. Let's see." And it was actually good for a laugh.
We do all ladies have that one girlfriend who's like really bad at love, because Nia Long's character Ellie had a girlfriend who Omar Epps' character, because he can't get with Ellie, like now he's trying to get to her through her girlfriend Courtney, and Courtney's like, "You're just jealous because you tried to come onto him in the bathroom and he turned you down because you're married." And every lady has a girlfriend like that. So
she was in denial.
She was totally in denial.
She was blinded by the love, which is the case when I'm around you. Just blinded.
Oh. I'm rolling my eyes, listener. You can't see it.
I think they probably could infer that from your verbal reaction. So you liked it. You thought it was good, or
I wouldn't say I thought it was good, but it was different from what we watched, and it was it was nice to see.
We got to spend time together on the couch.
We did while we were eating we were having Mole Monday instead of Taco Tuesday because our avocado was ready to go today, which I'm sure lots of people can understand.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So
avocados and bananas. I mean, you just never know when you're going to get them, right? Like they get delivered and you got to eat them on their schedule.
This is how much we like this movie. Now we're talking about grocery delivery and Mole Monday, which is not a thing. And
it is now. I think it should. I think this is going in the display text for this podcast.
Coco and Dalt's making Mole Monday a thing.
We love the movie so much.
Hashtag Mole Monday.
Mole Monday.
Yeah. So I will say I did actually think it was nice to see diversity on the screen.
That was not a question for me. I mean, it was. I think the movie was just bad. The acting was bad. The dialogue was bad. Some of the scenes were lit really oddly, and the question of the fact that they thought, well, there's no way people who are not in California are not gonna figure out that this isn't San Francisco.
Well, they probably just didn't really put that much thought into it, honestly.
Well, I think some people do though. I think that's the difference between the good movies and the bad movies is that they look at you can see the street signs were clear in that one scene. Right. So I Googled to see where it was, and it wasn't anywhere close to San Francisco.
It was on the Warner's backlot or something.
Right.
Totally.
Right. The corner of Main and Young. Or
and then Ocean Crest is apparently like a neighborhood in San Diego, right by the border, close to Tijuana or something.
So it's where all the smugglers live.
Yeah.
So it's not like Ocean Crest at all that we saw in the movie.
It's like El Chapo's summer house or something.
That's where the tunnel comes out.
Yeah, totally. I will say I did have serious real estate envy. Like if we could have that house like right on the beach, oh my God, that would be. Could we do that? Like I would stay in my house for the rest of my life. Like the lockdown could last forever, and I'd be happy if we were just like on the beach.
And it was one of those houses where they had the doors open and they didn't care about bugs or anything like that. Like it's that kind of where the ocean is crashing out on the shore there, and you're seeing the waves and you're hearing the waves.
Yeah, I could wake up to that every morning.
They had like a little private deck outside. I mean, this is how much the movie made an impression as we're talking about the set.
We've gone from talking about bananas to the sets.
So I'm
and the geographical confusion.
I have no doubts whatsoever in my mind that I would not recommend this movie.
Aww.
So, and as a matter of fact, I said to Coco after we watched it, I said, I think that's pretty much the worst movie that we've seen. And then she said, no, you really hated Love, Wedding, Repeat or whatever it was.
Yeah, Love, Wedding, Repeat was really bad.
Which was, the acting in that was actually a little bit better, I thought.
Really?
But it was farcical. It was intentionally supposed to be funny. It was almost like it was the Hugh Grant wannabe guy, and then there was the guy from Yesterday who was really funny. And
well, maybe this was supposed to be intentionally over the top as well, because I mean it's a Lifetime movie, so those aren't really known for their quality Oscar-winning performances. So maybe that was like, didn't George Lucas, like all of his direction in Star Wars was like faster and more intense? Like maybe that was like all the direction they got on this movie was.
Well, having read the oral history of Airplane recently, because it's 40 years old, the direction that they gave all the serious actors, well, all the actors, I guess, was pretend you're not in a comedy. Oh. So I think that might have been the same direction that they got in this movie.
Oh, okay.
Was pretend you're not in a comedy. And then it came across that way, that they were pretending. It was just pretending it wasn't funny because some of it was funny. I thought some of it was unintentionally funny. Like every scene where there was dramatic music, then there was like, Nia was in the foreground and then she'd move and there was Omar Epps right behind her. And then the next scene, it was like the dinner party where you don't mind if I brought along my a fourth, do you? Oh, not at all. There's Omar Epps. It's like there's no...
Well, he's stalking her because he's been obsessed with her since college apparently, and she didn't know he existed because she was...
I get it, but there was no mystery at all whatsoever. I mean, it was completely obvious. It was from the get-go. It was obvious. Like even with Fatal Attraction, some of the best parts of that were the uncertainty. Is like she's a little unhinged, and what's she gonna do now? But like you just knew Omar Epps was gonna do all this stuff, and then she totally she went over the top a little bit when she blocked him. She first blocked he was sending texts like, "Hey, it was great seeing you again," and then he was like, "Block."
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was like, oh, that escalated quickly.
And she did a lot of, there was a lot of those things where like she was la 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 and all of a sudden, oh, like extreme, like, very calm and cool and collected, and then all of a sudden jumping off the cliff. Like it was just, there was no transition there.
Okay, I'll give you, there's one scene where he leaves a package, a vinyl album on their private beach deck, and she goes to meet him at like a hibachi restaurant, and she walks in and it's broad daylight and she's wearing sunglasses, so immediately that's like super cheeseball,
right?
And then she sits down and she like gives him the record back, and anytime one of them says anything for like effect, the hibachi like fires up in the background.
Right.
It was like so funny.
It was so obvious.
And then she stood up and she said something like, don't ever call me again. And she puts her shades back on and she walks out. And he gets like the vinyl and he just starts like,
he just wrecks it.
He's like beating against the table and just like ripping it apart with his hands, and like nobody in the restaurant reacts.
Right.
They just like keep carrying on their conversations. And at one point he even yelled at her. He's like, don't you tell me what to do, Deborah, or something. And she's like, who the hell is Deborah? And then he just looked like,
well, he slammed the table too.
Yeah,
like he banged the table, and people all around are like, oh no, it's just another conversation.
Right, totally. So that the hibachi firing up in the background like 3 times in that scene, it was like really, really funny. I'll give you that. It
was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of subtlety in that movie. It's like, oh, symbolism. Things are going to get heated. Like that's the first thing that happened when she moved in. She moved into the scene, and then the hibachi blew up, and then it was like, oh, this is going to be a tense scene. I could tell. And then 2 more hibachi explosions. It's like, okay, we get it with the hibachi explosion. Like, what do you got to do?
And I'm like, when somebody walks into a restaurant wearing their shades, like at any time, like I kind of give them the side eye. I'm like, really? Like you can't, you're moving too fast to move your hand up to your face and take your shades off. So I'm like, that's not, do you think you're going to know somebody at the hibachi who's going to like turn you into your husband? I mean, like,
I will give them credit for trying a little bit of Batman Joker stuff when he reassembles the record later on and then plays it and tries to woo her with that to make her dance with him.
Yeah,
I thought that was a little bit of Heath Ledger there. Like it seemed like it was a little demented, but it just ended up by that point the comic ship has sailed, so you're already on that.
And speaking of the end of the movie, this is what I didn't understand also. So,
and there's no danger here of spoilers because you shouldn't be watching it anyway.
So the cops pull up in front of the house because she's called the police to say he's still alive because he faked his own death.
Right. Spoiler.
Yeah. So she calls the cops to say he's still alive. Please send police to my house to save my family. And when the policeman pulls up, somehow Omar Epps escapes the house and goes out front and he like kills the cop. But then later he steals the cop's gun. And I'm like, how did he kill the cop? Because I know that there are like missing knives and stuff, but like the guy was bleeding from his nose. So how...
It was unclear.
Yeah, so I don't understand how he managed to off the cop while the cop is still like in the driver's seat. Well, without there being a gunshot or anything. I don't understand.
The way I interpreted that, because of the lack of continuity in this movie, is that the cop showed up dead already.
Oh, yeah.
He pulled up he was already dead. And then the car just bumped into a curb, and he was like, so he had been killed down the road a little bit.
It was like Weekend at Bernie's.
Right. Dead cop driving a car. Yeah, and then Omar Epps had something to do with it. He probably showed up in the back seat or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm glad we watched it, though.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Be quiet.
So I hope this doesn't count against one of my movies that I wanted to watch because, like, on the ledger.
I didn't hate it. I mean, it was ridiculous, but I didn't. I'd give it 1 stolen knife up.
Would you 1 stolen knife? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd give it no record shards up. 2 crashed waves down.
You would give it negative record shards.
Negative record shards. That's what I would give it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think listener gathered that by this point. They're like, no, actually, it should be up for an Oscar.
Listener gathered that within like the first 15 seconds when you were just like, Coco, review this movie so we can get this podcast over with. I got better things to do with my life.
I'm going to go have a palate cleanser and watch a Miami Vice episode or something like that. Just to get back in the upswing.
Go watch Weekend at Bernie's. Actual Weekend at Bernie's.
But watch something that had a little bit of zest to it.
So if you enjoyed our review scattershot as it may be, you can listen to our other reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Google Play, and YouTube. Still soon to be on IMDb.
We're working on it. It's very close.
We'll let you know when that happens. We will let you know on our social media platforms, which are Coco and Daltz on Twitter and Facebook. You can email us at cocoanddaltz@gmail.com, and you can find us on the interwebs at cocoanddaltz.com. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Please say nice stuff. We'd appreciate that. And if you drop us an email or slide into our DMs, let us know what you think, what you want us to hear review, what you want to hear us review in the future. There we go. I can't speak. And yeah, just let us know what's up.
Subscribe and share.
Yes.
Listener, subscribe and share.
Yes, please.
I was looking at the numbers today, and we are huge in Europe, apparently.
Which European countries are we big in?
The ones that are in the West.
The English-speaking ones?
Well, the Portugal's not English, or Spain, or France. Or,
ooh la la.
We're huge in Ireland. I was not knowing that we were. So shout out to listener in Ireland.
My mom's side of the family is Irish and Swiss, so it's probably some of my far-flung relatives.
That could be.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly what it is, actually. Or what I like to think of is our one listener downloads us from every country that he or she goes to.
Because he's not American, so he can still travel.
Right. And he's traveling Europe, and he's like, look at me, I'm traveling.
Maybe our one listener is Bono. Maybe that's why we have so many Irish downloads. Because I did name drop Bono in the last podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the mysterious ways. You name drop Bono, and then I name drop God. So,
right.
So I win.
Right. Well, yes. Well, no, I don't know. They're pretty much the same, aren't they?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So the music is playing us out, so I guess that means we gotta go. And I love the music, by the way. Listening to an episode earlier today that didn't have music, I was sad because I missed the music.
That was before we were rolling around in bathtubs full of cash.
Right.
And could not afford a sound engineer, but now we can.
Now we can. And the director also we can afford, who is telling me to wrap things up. So, for another episode of the podcast, thanks for joining us, listener. We appreciate your loyalty. I'm not Coco.
And I'm not Daltz.